All right. Any from the board? Can I get a mover then? Go ahead, Board Member Gano.
I'll move acceptance of the agenda with the one addition for Camrose County.
All right. Seeing no hands up, I'll call the question. All in favor? And carried. 3.1 minute approval, April 15th, 26. Everyone had a chance to review it?
Yeah, I'll move to accept the minutes as for April 15th.
All right. Seeing no questions, I'll call it. All in favor? And carried. I see we have a couple new staff as well as some members of the public. So we will start off with introductions. Rich, if you want to start us off.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rich Fitzgerald, Development Officer.
Krista Schlender, Administrative Assistant.
Larry Clark, Board Member.
Alan Gano, Board Member.
Wade Hunter, Board Member.
Justin Stevens, good afternoon.
Janet Adam, board member.
Clint Walker, Board Member.
Craig Teal, Director of Planning and Development. And Mr. Chair, I'll introduce our two new planning staff that are joining us. I'll ask them to stand up in order. Thoreau Goodman and Andrew Gomez.
Welcome.
Andrew Burshik, Director of Municipal Services.
And in the back, can you give
Just
your name?
Nolan Bullock representing Bullock Patrician there in Gadsby. We're hoping to move a trailer.
Okay.
Anything else, or?
Why? All right. If the board is all right with it, we can jump to the topics that are pertaining to the members from the public, which would be 7.2 and which one of the development permits? 6.1?
My apologies, Mr. Chair. My flight was a little delayed for departure this morning.
So we will jump to 6.1. Which one of the staff is taking this? Rich, go ahead.
Oh, there we go. So the application is to consider 26018 is to consider the placement of a manufactured home older than 10 years, which is a discretionary use in the agricultural district. The subject property is located just outside of the hamlet of Gadsby along Alberta Avenue. The surrounding properties are made up of residential and agricultural uses. An Alberta Transportation Roadside Development Permit has been issued for this development. Can I get you to turn to page 10, Andrew? Thank you. The subject properties, sorry, discuss that. So section 92.3 provides for, of the land use bylaw, provides for a manufactured home older than 10 years as a discretionary use in the agricultural district. This manufactured home that is proposing to be placed is from 1988, and the applicant is not planning any renovations. The manufactured home is in good condition and was recently removed off of a lot in the hamlet of Gadsby. The applicant has spent considerable time cleaning up the property since taking ownership. There has been a permit previously issued for a manufactured home on this property, but the applicant decided that the manufactured home that was there was beyond repair, which is the reason for this application. The manufactured home that is proposed came from the area, so it meets with comparable properties in the same location. Therefore, administration recommends the application be approved with the attached standard conditions. It should be noted that the applicant will have a condition of the permit will be that the applicant finish the skirting of the manufactured home within 30 days of placing it on the property. And that concludes my presentation.
All right. Any questions from the board? Seeing.
The only question would be on the sewer system. Is it a pump out system, it'll meet that, the inspection by the,
I think we should go to staff first on that.
So a condition of the permit is that the property will have to meet all safety standards. So that would be, they would have to make sure that they are connected to an approved system for that property. I don't believe that property is large enough to facilitate a pump out system, so it would have to be a holding tank that you get pumped out, I believe.
I'll give the applicant the opportunity to speak if there's anything you'd like to add.
Oh, yep. Currently, right now, the way it was from the previous owner we purchased it from, it is set up as a pump out.
Oh,
We can change that. We'll make that a holding tank if we have to. We do own the 140 acres adjacent to the east of that property as well, but we can put a holding tank in if that's required.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, if I can, just to make sure we're talking about the same terminology. A pump out as in a truck comes and hauls it away, or it's an open discharge to ground surface? Okay.
So my question, and this is not intended to be a loaded question, but if the applicant owns the adjacent 140 acres and wish to keep the open discharge system, is there an opportunity to consolidate those two properties together to facilitate the setbacks? Or is it, no, we have an application before us, a holding tank is the only appropriate mechanism currently?
So, Mr. Chair, that consolidating all to have a large enough parcel to meet the 300-foot setback from the point of discharge will be a possibility. But I will point out that this is also up to the plumbing inspector, and we're unaccredited in that area. So we do have to defer to the safety codes on how they would treat this. And working with the inspector, if that's one of the solutions, then it probably would have to come back as a plan of consolidation if they want to go with it, or if it's going to be converted to a holding tank with a trucked out service. That is also another solution that may fit that parcel size, but also meet the safety codes requirements. But again, while we flag it as a requirement under our development permits, we're not in the business of regulating the private sewage installations. That's left to a accredited safety codes inspector who the applicant has to hire themselves.
Go ahead.
yeah, the open discharge has got to be 300 feet from property line.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean you can't put a field in.
Yeah, that
Because
too is
that only
another
has to be
legitimate
3
option,
feet.
yes. Yeah.
So that is a lot cheaper, or depends on the soil, but trust me, I know all about what it costs to haul sewer out of a tank from the lake. It's not cheap.
A field may be more initial capital, but may be cheaper in the long run. So you're comfortable with the conditions laid out? You understand the requirements? And you, okay? Well, is there, oh, go ahead.
Well, I'll just make a motion for the recommendation, staff recommendation.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, I'll call it. All those in favor? And carried. Thanks for
Perfect.
coming
Thank
in.
you.
And to accommodate the other public members, we will jump to 7.2 subdivision file. Who's taking this one?
That'll be me, Mr. Chair. And I think in interest of this application, we do have the applicants, Ray and Miriam. And also online, I'm not sure if we have one of the adjacent landowners.
Okay.
So the subdivision application we're going to look at, if I could get you to jump to page 67, Andrew. Okay. So this is a proposal to create about 11-acre parcel in the north portion of the Northwest 1740-19-4. In this quarter section, it's already split into two parcels. There's the land on the west side of Range Road 19-5, and there's land on the east side of Range Road 19-5. If approved, this would be the third parcel in the quarter section. The remainder of the house is further down to the south end of the parcel on the west side of 19-5. The plan in staff's opinion does meet the municipal development plan's intent in terms of what's allowable for subdivision within agricultural district lands. So as I mentioned, this will be the third parcel in a quarter section where we allow up to 3 parcels per quarter section. The MDP calls for a preferred size when we're dealing with a bared size parcel like this to be around 5 acres, but there is provision to allow a larger size parcel if the applicant intends to use an open discharge, and it can be demonstrated that the lands are not suitable to, say, an in-field system or in-ground system that would lead to fewer setbacks and a smaller parcel size. Staff are comfortable with the approach of using the open discharge, and what that does mean is that the discharge point would pretty much have to be in the middle of this parcel. Because when you look at the dimensions running north-south, that 300 feet either way is 600 feet, and there's about 615 as a dimension north-south, a little bit of latitude on where to move it east-west. Even with that placement of an open discharge at that point, it's still well away from the wetlands area, and there's at least 3 suitable building sites that are outside the 45-meter ring that you have to be away from the actual point of discharge. So what that means is the discharge takes the central point in this particular parcel, and it pushes the building house locations out to the corners, too close to the west edge and one closer to 19-5 on the east side. There is no area structure plan that applies to this area. It's outside the Buffalo Lake IDP area. Well, in terms of land use bylaw, the minimum parcel size is 3 acres, so we're well over that expectation. Given that it's a third parcel in this quarter section, municipal reserve dedication is one of the items the subdivision authority can take, and our policy does indicate that we would take 10% of the land of the size of the parcel being created. So in this particular case, that works out to 10% of 11 acres, 1.1, and rather than taking that as land, our policy is accept that as cash in lieu, using a rate of $2,428 per acre. So that works out to a municipal reserve dedication and cash equivalent of just under $2,700. With the water and wastewater services, the intent is to use a private well. And there is some discussion in the report, and you see some concerns from the adjacent landowners about the ability to supply a well. Each quarter section in Alberta is considered to be able to supply enough groundwater to meet the domestic needs of up to 6 households. And after that point, that's when the Alberta Environment recommends to subdivision authorities that you move on to more thorough testing as opposed to relying on that number. So when we get to the 6 houses per quarter, that's when we would start looking for water supply reports, either a desktop or moving on to actual drilling and pumping test results. In this particular case, the applicants have supplied a opinion from their well driller, which is available in your documentation. And the well drillers relied on a 2008 water supply study that the county had commissioned. So there's an exhibit in your materials there to demonstrate that. The concern from some of the adjacent landowners is that their wells are not producing very much in the 1 to 2 gallons per minute. That still is sufficient to divert a household's worth of water in a given year from that well. And wells are all unique and individually, well, even in the same quarter section, can vary quite a bit in terms of their ability to produce water. The other option that's always available is the ability to have a cistern, which is quite common. Even our own regional water system we distribute actually produces at around 1 gallon per minute, with the expectation that there's a cistern to make sure that you have that pressure for the shower and the peak household needs, which are concentrated, not distributed over a 24-hour period. So given that there is demonstration of groundwater available, or in this particular location, if it had to come down to a cistern with a trucking system, we have a truck fill station within reasonable distance located up at the summer village of White Sands to the north. So staff are confident that the water can be addressed. Similarly, the wastewater, an open discharge system remains, if you have the land to work with, remains one of the most cost-effective means of dealing with your private wastewater disposal and treatment. Our policy, though, does indicate that you have to demonstrate that the soils are not conducive to doing an in-ground system. So that would require a percolation test, and that is anywhere from around, depending on the ability of the applicant to do their own test holes and then get the testing done by a lab, is anywhere from $1,000 to $2,500 to get that test back in. So in this particular case, we're comfortable recommending that test be a requirement as a condition. And then before registration, we would have to see the results of that testing work. In terms of access road and dedication for road widening, there's some indication and concerns about the status of Range Road 19-5 and 19-5, this segment of it, this 4-mile stretch, does have a bit of a history in terms of county improvements, and both in terms of brushing and changing the road surface to make it a safer road. But it's fair to say that it will not operate like our other nice flat straight roads that are also range roads that are posted or intended to be speeds of up to 80 kilometers an hour. There is quite a few bends, twists, and turns and blind corners on this segment of road. So Public Works has confirmed that the 60 kilometer an hour speed limit signs that were supposed to be there are going back up. And they will also do a road assessment to determine whether or not they need additional cautionary signs or warning signs as you approach stop signs or hidden driveway signs. That's work yet to come. In terms of the proposed capacity of that road, we don't have in our policies a good hard and fast number. So staff have looked to Red Deer County's guidelines. We tend to borrow heavily from their guidelines when we look at our own road design on how many vehicles they would allow on this kind of road in a daily basis. And it's up to 1,000 vehicle trips per day. So to put that in perspective, if you think about your own household, if two of you are working and maybe you have a teenager at home and you're making trips to and from town or to and from work, one person jumping in the car, going out to work, coming home, that's 2 trips for that day already. So the typical dwelling easily gets up to 12 or 10 to 12 vehicle trips per day. And with a 16, if this is approved, it would allow for a 16th residence on this 4-mile stretch, which uses up 192 vehicle trips a day out of a theoretical 1,000 vehicle trip limit. So in long answer, but staff are comfortable that there's sufficient capacity to deal with the traffic generation. In terms of the access locations, there's 2. There's the proposed access for the new parcel, which is intended to be towards the north end where the section of 19-5 starts taking that bend. You can see on the air photo oriented towards the northeast. Actually, is the one that you were on there. That's great. Thanks. And at that location, there's sufficient distance, around 80 to 90 meters, both directions at a speed of 60 kilometers for someone pulling onto the road to be able to see oncoming traffic. Similarly, just south of the pink line, which is the proposed boundary, there is the existing access, actually right there at the very bottom of the page. You can see thank you very much. That's the existing access to the remainder. That too has good sight lines, and in both cases, minor brushing and slight changing to the ditch slope will improve those sight lines. So staff are also comfortable that safe and effective access points can be provided both to the remainder and to the proposed parcel. In terms of the Rural Development Fund, it is a new bare parcel. It's not a farmstead removal, and our policy is the first 5 acres does not require a contribution, but anything above that 5 acres is subject to the $1,000 an acre contribution. So in this case, that's a $6,000 contribution towards a rural development contribution or Rural Development Fund. Just going to move on to page 60 of the package. Thank you very much. So subdivision applications are sent out for others to provide their comments. And sometimes that's just to see if there's anything that we have to address as a subdivision authority or whether or not just giving them a heads up on a proposed development coming. So that includes our own internal staff and the comments from operations are in your report package, dealing primarily with the access and the function of Range Road 19-5. They've also flagged an issue that our road intrudes onto the applicant's land in a couple points. So we cut the corner and you can see that back on the air photo when we come back to it. And in those kind of cases, the county can take the road dedication to rectify that, to widen up 19-5. And we also have a tendency to, when it's us that have trespassed and needed for our road, we'll deal with the fence relocation. We'll also chip in for the survey plan to do the survey work to get the appropriate width that we need. So in this particular case, there is a recommendation for dedication of land, not using an agreement for future because we have an immediate problem that we wish to start correcting, but that would be a combined effort if the application is going forward for registration for the road plan to be created to affect that road widening. Adjacent landowners, we do circulate to adjacent landowners our subdivision applications, and we often do not hear anything back. In this particular case, we did get 2 letters of objection. The comments in those 2 letters are summarized in the section that's up on the screen in their own words. Those are available also in the package at the back for your reading and consultation prior to today's meeting. Adjacent landowners are able to comment on subdivision applications, and the obligation of the subdivision authority is to read the material and take it into account. But beyond that, it's really the policies and the regulations and the planning considerations that drive the decision. Adjacent landowners do not get the right to appeal. Unlike applicant or government departments that may have an interest, they do have a right to appeal. So I won't, given that I've written a line by line discussion on some of those points, Mr. Chair, I probably won't go through those in detail. They're available for the panel to have read and considered. Referral agencies, there are no concerns flagged there. I do want to draw attention to the Alberta Transportation. It seems a little funny given that the highway is a mile away, but that's a reflection of the legislation that says any land that's within 1 mile of a highway, we do have to circulate and get their sign off or a comment to us. So if we can go to page, lost my page numbers, Andrew. The conditions on page 63, please. So just to reiterate, Mr. Chair, the recommendation from staff is to approve the application subject to the list of conditions that you can see up on the screen. The notable ones include the municipal reserve dedication in the amount of $2,670.80. Number 4, that the applicants submit a report from a qualified person demonstrating that the soils are not conducive to a in-ground disposal field, private sewage disposal system. Number 5 deals with the dedication of the road widening to correct the various areas we need to widen up Range Road 19-5 to the county's desired roadway width. Number 6 is the requirement to construct an approach that for both the remnant and for the proposed and the remnant, meeting the county's expectations, and usually that means taking out a roadside or a approach application form and working with our public works staff to effect that. And number 7 is making arrangements for our crews to come do some brushing at both points to improve those sight lines. And with that, I'd be happy to field any questions. Mr. Chair, I do point out, I think our other person is no longer online, and the applicants may have some points they wish to make as well.
Okay, well, we'll start off with internal questions, and we will give the applicant an opportunity. Go ahead.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of questions I have. Can you go back to the map, Andrew? So the proposed north, whereabouts are you, they're talking about putting the,
Sorry, the next one.
where are they proposing to add the approach?
Okay. If you can, probably the easiest is to follow the label. You can see the middle segment of the road, the section that's on 19-5, label 333 feet.
Yeah.
Roughly in the middle of that section.
Okay. Now, I mean, I'm assuming our public works has done that because it's a blind corner, very much a blind corner coming around there. Even at 60, is that the better spot, or would it be closer to the very south portion where you have a long stretch?
So can we go to the photos, Andrew? And because we do take pictures of those actual points. So on page 59, and yes, between planning staff and public works, we do evaluate those. So this, we're going to look at the second, actually, yes, the 2 top. So the top one is that general vicinity looking to the north. So the left, the driver coming onto the road. And other than the trees that are jutting out, you have a very good sight distance, 80 to 90 meters, where you can see a vehicle coming around that bend. The removal of that little section of trees that's just kind of jutting out the toe of it, that would improve it that much better. On the second photo, we have similar distance, and right in the foreground, you can see, probably guess which tree has to come down. And so that's where the brushing will come into effect. Going further up between the ups and downs and the curves, they're actually, it's not a good alternative location to the south.
Okay, fair enough. That makes sense. So this is the first time, I think, in a very, very long time that we've actually had, Mr. Chair, anybody with concerns about a subdivision for sure. So the water concern that was brought up in the concern letters, what was the fix for that? Was there, you said you were going to, I'm trying to look at the conditions.
I, I think the applicant provided, a letter referencing a couple studies from a, water well driller.
Oh, okay. But we're not putting any condition on that.
Mr. Chair, it's our recommendation to not put a condition attached to water.
Okay, no, fair enough. And then thirdly, and then the only concern that I have is it's not this particular application. I think it's any more going forward. Where do we, if this was this particular section of road, I think everybody, even the non-senior board members have seen a ton of concerns, requests, and issues with this road. When do we make the call to move this to a hard surface and make it paved? We've done that in other locations. Something has to trigger it. I'm just asking the question, when does a hard surfacing have to done? If it was a subdivision of a large portion, it would come that way. So
I partially agree. I believe that the traffic concerns have been cumulative, and I don't want to put all road upgrades. No, this applicant was the straw that broke the camel's back. That I believe that's unfair. Do I think that some safety measures, road upgrades are warranted? Yeah, I think we're probably at that point. I do not believe the traffic from 16 residences justifies paving. I think there's lots of ways to add safety measures. One of the first ones, and I'm not certain that brushing those couple spots is sufficient. I mean, should we be doing brushing at every one of the curves? I mean, that traffic doesn't end 90 meters away. That's the blind spot for turning out. But personally, I would be more comfortable with more substantial brushing. But I would like to add a caveat, and it doesn't change my opinion, but the rest of the board should know that there was substantial pushback from the residents when there was road upgrades done and when there was brushing done previously. I am not telling you to discount the need for it or that it would, in my opinion, improve the safety, especially going around those curves. I am only telling the board that to inform you of the prior context and that there may be pushback in the future if we go that way.
So, Mr. Chair, my only question is, when do we, I mean, and unfortunately, the nice thing about having the brush there, it diminishes all the dust control concerns. But it does create a dangerous situation in the fact that it is building up blind spots and it builds up snow and it builds up concerns. Now, and I'm not saying, again, from a planning point of view, like, where do we finally say enough is enough? How many people, I personally, looking back at this, in my personal opinion, probably 6 or 8 subdivisions ago, which I definitely was part of some of those, I think we made a mistake by not holistically looking at the road and saying, holy crap, there's a lot of traffic going to be on this road in the future. Maybe this isn't I get the appeal because it's a beautiful stretch of road. That's where everybody wants their property. I get that idea. But if we start taking out the brush, next is going to be the dust control. But we need to take out the brush to make it safe. So this one I have a lot of difficulty with. So.
I fully appreciate that. My stance on dust control, if we said 16 residents, that's the threshold. Oh wow, are we doing an awful lot of dust control on every subdivision, every hamlet? We can no longer have gravel services.
I know your opinion on it. They should pay for it, but maybe that's what should be part of this. I don't know.
I would say, in fairness, when it comes to dust, and yes, there's levels. There is a point where we should be looking at hard surfacing. I don't agree that it's on this instance, but on the idea of dust and the idea of trees, just because we remove trees off our right of way does not preclude any ratepayer from planting a shelter belt on their property as a mitigation. That is everyone's option, and our Ag Service Board does push both tree planting and subsidized shelter belt programs. And we do educational and workshop pieces on those. So we actively encourage that. The second thing is landowners do have the option of paying for dust control. I believe that you even did so in front of your property. So,
Can't get
So
trees to grow, so I have.
well, my question is, if there were 16 houses on your road, would we pay for it or would you still pay for it?
I'm just saying, but maybe it should be made to be happening. I'm just saying. I don't.
Board Member Hunter?
But even you talking about shelter belts and trees, what is that setback from the road? Is it 125 feet? Am I correct?
No.
It's 75 for the
Okay.
shelter belt
Thing.
From the
from
center
the center line. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I have one more question.
I got
I wasn't sure who you.
Just on that particular road though, too, like the brushing situation on it, I know we've had a lot of pushback on it. But this is also a road that at one point and I don't know if we do yet, if we cleared enough before, but we had pilot cars that would have to go with graders because of the visibility and the winding road. So I do think that possibly part of this should be it like we are required to brush it. What happens on the private land is on the private land, but it would as far as the dust control or dust abatement, there is options in place. But I mean, a lot of those pieces of land are very well treed too. So I don't think that little bit of trees in the ditch is going to just prevent all of this. So I do think it maybe is a step that has to be taken from our municipality, not just because of this acreage, but because of the road and visibility issues.
Okay, we'll go back over to Board Member Nyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, Andrew, could you bring up the map? I'm just, the sewer pump out is the other one that I was thinking. Now, that setback, is it in the, is it setback from a slough water of body as well?
It is, Mr. Chair. So the outer ring is the setback distance. That's 300 feet from the central point to any property line.
Okay.
And then when you get to that inner ring, that's the 45-meter distance to be away from any wetland. And wells and houses are generally around the same distance. You have to have your well at 50 meters out, and your house has to be at 45 meters out as well. So that's when I say there's still buildable space that kind of pushes you towards the corners to find those buildable spaces. And then remember that coming in from 19-5, you also have our setback from 125 feet from the center line. So, but there's still 3 very large suitable building spaces, even with those restrictions.
Okay. No, I just, when you seen the blue ring, I was thinking we should have because that slough is definitely at its lowest point in 100 years. Okay. But that's fair enough. It has been dealt with. So,
yeah. So just a reminder that our photo that we're looking at is from 2021.
Okay, so 98 years.
Yeah.
I do have a question on the land for the road corrections that we're getting from if this applicant is approved. Is that land deducted from the Rural Development Fund and the MR? And I just don't want to get into a scenario where we're double dipping. So if it's 11 plus or minus, we have to take some land for the widening. They only end up with a subdivision of 10.5. I don't know if they should pay the fees on that additional 0.5, just for example.
Short answer is yes. We don't take MR if it's been dedicated as a roadway.
Yeah.
And then we adjust the Rural Development Fund when we see the more accurate drawings coming in from the surveyors compared to our sketches.
So if I understand correctly, those numbers are estimates plus or minus once we get the actual survey in.
In both cases, if the road dedication goes ahead, it's more likely going the down part.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, again. So the correction on the remainder of property, the 26.6 acres of Range Road 19.5, are we doing anything with that correction or what? Because that should almost go straight through the slough, doesn't it? Or what's the actual road allowance?
Yeah, this one, we lost the property boundary. Sorry. So on this, unfortunately, we lost the property boundary tracing down the west side of 19-5. You're gonna have to help me out. Which slough are you referring to?
Well, the big slough right beside the Range Road 19.5, like the road, where should the,
In the north
this is
end
the
here.
one where the road allowance should actually be on the backside of these properties, right?
You can see the undeveloped road allowance, yes, to the west, to the left-hand side a little further.
And this 19.5 is a forced road.
It was, yeah. So it's only 20 meters wide. So the north part where you see it, the physical road is offset enough. We may not be looking for 5 meters there. And that's what makes this a little difficult to define as a single, just take 5 meters uniform, because you're trying to follow a snake up against a bunch of squared off angles. So that's why the condition is worded to whichever is greater, we want an additional 5 meters to the west of
On the
our
remainder
existing,
property.
on the remainder and the proposed.
Okay.
And except where we may want more, where we're measuring, we want at least 15 meters from the center line of our existing road over. So that's why it's not a uniform 5 meter strip all the way down. In some cases, that may drop to just 5 meters, or may balloon out to 7 or 8 meters, depending on where we're going down the curves.
So, Mr. Chair, again, so right where it says remainder of property and the arrow is pointing, are we already at the right amount of setback there? It looks like we are, but
No, if I recall, unfortunately, I think we're hugging the west side of the right of way, so that's where we'll most likely be needing at least the 5 meters.
Okay, so that being said, does that put their shop offside?
No.
Okay. Because the center of the road is still the center of the road.
Yes.
I love this road. It's been awesome. Forest roads. See how straight that other one is? The backside?
To your point about traffic and the boil the frog scenario about at what point road improvement should have been made, switching to the correct placement on the west road dedication, let ship has sailed. Because if we put it there, that house that you were pointing to at the remainder, it's no longer compliant if the road was in the right spot. Like we have so many approaches and so many yards landscaped. It would solve the road problem at a great expense because of some of the wetlands and hills that you have to go through. But now we've absolutely destroyed every axis that we've dealt with at every one of the previous 15 approaches. Some of them would lose access to the road altogether if they don't own the property on the west side of the current road, as well as a I'm comfortable pushing back a little bit on us removing trees in our right of way. But when it's been your yard for 30 years and they're your trees on what was your property under our rules, I have a lot more defense for them pushing back on those ones. So I think that ship has sailed too. If there's no other questions from the board,
I would move that we go with the recommendations with staff.
I'm fine with that motion, but I'm gonna give the applicants an opportunity to speak before we debate that motion. Would you like to add anything? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Same on screen as well. Mr.
Yeah,
Chair.
yeah, I see that there's someone. You're satisfied? Are you as confused as the rest of us? Okay. I'll give the person online an opportunity to introduce themselves. And if this is the topic that you would like to speak to, just give your name, and then I'll give you a couple moments to speak regarding the application if you desire. So, I'll try one more time just in case you couldn't hear me. The person zoomed in. If this is your opportunity to speak, if you're interested in speaking on this application.
Hello.
Hello?
Hey. Yeah, my name is Stephen Pollock. I am a resident of the adjacent land owner. I kind of been listening in a bit. We're in the middle of hauling cows, so I think I missed some of it. I was just wondering if our concern about water and water well was addressed. I think I missed a good chunk of it, so I'm not sure if it was or not.
Okay. As part of our application, background information, the applicant provided some additional info regarding water wells, referencing some of the previous studies from a licensed water well driller. So we do have some additional background information on that particular topic. Is there any other questions that you have before we debate the motion that's on the table?
Nope, that would be it.
All right. Thank you. So we have a motion on the table. My first concern with the conditions as they're written is primarily around brushing. And I would be a lot more comfortable if Public Works went back and took a look at more of the curbs and potential blind spots outside of strictly the access road. I would be more comfortable if the condition was worded around on more general on the road. We have staff and then
So generally speaking, Mr. Chair, we don't attach conditions to ourselves for subdivision approval. They get attached to the applicant and they check a balance for whether or not their application moves on. If the board's inclination is that you want more brushing along the section of 19-5 to be undertaken, we certainly could pass it on to the operating department, and of their own volition, we just follow up in that manner.
Okay, Board Member Nyberg.
But can we put the condition that the brushing is done before this is approved? And here's my concern is if they go ahead and do the development and then build, and then we don't have an opportunity, because our brushing is done on a first come, first served basis. If we don't get to the brushing for 3 years, they go ahead and build, and then there is a safety concern. Somehow I need to have a comfort level that this is going to be done before we add more people to it. And I have one other item too as well on that.
Well,
Chair.
we'll let the staff answer the first question.
Okay, so if I'm going to go back and explain how this brushing letter typically works and see if that addresses some of the concerns. So first up, for the county to brush within the county road allowance, and that's what we are talking about. That's an operational issue. We do not need the permission of an applicant to go and do that. Historically, though, we've asked people to at least sign off acknowledging that brushing is going to happen across their frontage. And we've attached that as part of our subdivision approval. So the applicant satisfies condition number 7 by signing a brushing clearance letter or acknowledgement letter, which then gets uploaded to our department, operating department, and they will do the brushing if it's their schedule. Sometimes it's the same season, sometimes it is the next season. Sometimes if there's a note about the landowner wanting to be contacted before they take down or the option of clearing up the tree rather than taking out a tree, that system accommodates that too by giving the contact information to follow up on. If we say that the brushing must be done prior to, then number one, we're probably not going to let the applicant be in charge of that condition because we don't let them go do brushing in our road allowance. And now they are at the whim of our timing on when we get to it. So that's one of the drawbacks about trying to structure it that way. Again, we can point out the urgency or the desire to look at this season to the operating department, and they can act on it that way.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, and just to the very south of this, because I'm thinking that's where typically the traffic seems to go. There is a large hill that I wonder if we shouldn't put up signage, and I know this may not be part of the application, but maybe something that's brought back to council to review that blind hill or something, because
Driveway.
if you go to that right at the very top of the hill, there is a driveway, and it is kind of I'll be honest, my name is on that approval. Where it's at, there is an approach or a driveway at the top, kind of off the hill there, and it is a crapshoot if somebody was to come in. There's lots to see, but until you crest the hill, you don't know. And if you're coming from the south, or you're coming from the north going south, I have been on that road multiple times when somebody comes over the hill, and it is, I mean, if you're not a country driver, I would be worried about it. So I'm not sure if that's something we can do in that one.
If I understand correctly, we have the option to vote on the motion being made, but the board could make a follow-up motion instructing administration to look at a number of items. And if I realize first come, first served, and there's a queue for brushing, but given the circumstances, this could, we could instruct to jump the queue a bit. The topics that we've discussed that there is some concern about that are under our control are A, brushing, B, signage, for some of the blind corners, that sort of thing, blind approaches, upcoming stop signs or intersections. So that would be a good thing to look at the same time as doing brushing. Another one that we haven't discussed about, this is primarily safety enhancement around sightlines. I do have another small concern in winter safety. Not everywhere on this road has sufficient drainage because it's so treed in. I think once it's brushed, we it will get noticeably better because our graders can actually wing some of the snow off the road for a change. I think that would be something else they could look at and bring back recommendations once the brushing for sightlines has been completed. And the fourth item, yes, we did change the speed limit. We're relying on estimates for traffic volume. I think this would be another prime opportunity to put our traffic counter sign so we can have some accurate data come back to us on traffic volumes as well as speeds, so that hopefully we make a little more well-informed decision on if additional upgrades are required. Does that make sense to the board?
So, Mr. Chair, and I think you're right, but I don't think this is part of the applicant. So I think what we should maybe just have this brought back to council at a future date to have that conversation. It is a safety issue, and it just happens to be brought to the forefront because of this application. So, yeah, we talk about it lots.
Yeah, I thought I phrased it where we deal with the motion on the table
no.
and a separate motion.
Did it, but really long.
Yeah. Like. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that, like, this application, we can debate roads all we want all over the county, but this application hasn't got a lot to do with, doesn't affect changing that road at all. To me, like the traffic, they're not running 1,000 vehicles out of there a day.
It is part of the cumulative volume.
I know.
There is a straw.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you for coming in. You did not bring in the most streamlined application we've ever seen.
Andrew, can you go back to Greg's mouth for a second?
Thank you very much.
I'll be in touch.
Would the board entertain that second motion now to instruct administration to?
I'll give you a motion that we instruct administration to bring back to council a review of 19.5 safety concerns. I do think we need to bring it sooner than later if you've got time, Mr. Clark. Probably, yeah.
We just set the agenda for this meeting up.
No, fair enough. I don't think we're going to build a house in the next
2 weeks' time. We definitely.
All right. All those in favor? And carried. All right, we will skip back to, I believe we are now at 6.2. Who's taking this one?
That'll be me, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
All right, so this application is probably going to look a bit familiar to you folks. You saw a subdivision on the same property just a couple months ago. So the purpose of this application is to consider an ancillary building oversized, which is a discretionary use in the agricultural district. This property is located in the Donalda Red Willow district. It's roughly 9 kilometers north of Stettler at 40047 Range Road 20-0. The surrounding properties are made up of agricultural and residential uses. So the subdivision that took place on this property was to allow to correct some encroachments that were on the property of existing structures, and also to allow the space to build this proposed development. So if I could get Andrew to turn to page 19. So that's a picture of the subdivided property, what it's going to look like once it's registered. And you can see on the right of the screen, that white block, that's where the applicant is proposing to place the structure in relation to the new property lines. So in the agricultural district, section 92.3 of the land use bylaw provides for an ancillary building oversized as a discretionary use. The maximum ground floor area of a permitted use ancillary building is 1,500 square feet, and the maximum ground floor area of a discretionary use ancillary building is 3,000 square feet. So the application meets all the required setbacks, so there's no variances that are required as part of this application. So the applicant is proposing to construct a 2,944 square foot ancillary building. So I'll get you to go to page 27 now, Andrew, if you would. Oh, sorry, I jumped ahead too far, I think. I got my pages. Yeah, maybe just scroll down there. Couple more down, I believe. Keep going. Oh, sorry. Can you go back? There should be a picture of the actual building. Oh, right, that one. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. My page numbering got a bit mixed up there, but so the applicant is proposing to construct a 2,944 square foot ancillary building. So it is below the maximum size that is allowed as a discretionary use. The subject property is 14.73 acres in size, so there is ample room to house the structure on the existing property. The area is surrounded by the property is made up of agricultural land with 1 acreage to the south and 1 to the west. Subject property was recently subdivided, and the proposed ancillary building will be constructed on a portion of land that was added to the parcel. The location meets all the required setbacks from the property lines, as well as the required setback from the water body to the north of the proposed location. This proposed ancillary building will be used for cold storage and will not be heated. It's basically an equipment storage building with 2 carports on the side where they'll be able to park vehicles or equipment under there as well. So in the opinion of administration, the application meets the requirements of this discretionary use in this district. So our recommendation is that the application be approved with the attached conditions and the proposed development permit that is attached. That concludes my presentation, and if there are any questions, I can now take them now.
Any questions from the board? I'll entertain a mover if there's no questions. Go ahead. All right. Seeing no one else jumping to the mic, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And carried. Next up, 6.3. You taking this one again, Rich?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The purpose of this application is to consider the construction of a detached dwelling with an attached ancillary building with height and side variances, which are discretionary uses in the resort residential district. So this application is located in the multi-lot subdivision of Scenic Sands. It's located at 19 Buffalo Drive. The surrounding properties are made up of residential uses and the county's environmental reserve. So the applicant had previously applied for this application, so it may look very familiar to you, gentlemen and board members, sorry. The only change to the application is to the total height of the building, and at its highest point, it'll be 28 feet. The building will be 40 by 70 and with a 12 by 30 lean-to the west side and a covered walkway on the east. The applicant is looking for a height variance from 25 feet, which is the maximum, to allow for 28 feet, which is a 12% variance, and a side yard variance from 10 foot to 7 foot, which is 30% variance. So in the land use district, it allows for a detached dwelling and ancillary building as permitted uses, but because of the variances that are being requested, it is a discretionary use. So the Municipal Planning Commission does have the ability to allow for the variances. considering that the proposed development would not unduly interfere with the amenities of the neighborhood or materially interfere or affect the use, enjoyment, or value of neighboring parcels, and that the proposed development conforms to the land use use prescribed for in the land use bylaw. And then, of course, section 109.12 says, that's where it says that you cannot remove more than 50% of the existing live tree and or shrub coverage on any lot in the multi-lot subdivision of Scenic Sands. So the applicant is requesting an east side setback of the 7 foot from 10 foot to allow for a covered walkway around the building. So if I can get you to turn to page 28, Andrew. So as you can see, that section where it encroaches on the west is, it's a covered walkway. It's not it is part of the house. We have to take it into consideration, but it's not closed in. It's just the covered roof that is going to actually encroach. And then the building, the height of the eaves meets the setback, but the total maximum roof, so to the peak, is over the allowable height. The applicant explained that the reason for that, and if I can get you to turn to page 29, Andrew. So it shows the house design there. And the applicant explained that the reason they need the height raised was to allow for proper insulation and construction of the roof, the truss structure. So there is a good reason for applying for that application. So, and this, as you can see in the top picture there, the back part of this property where it backs onto the municipal reserve, there is quite a bit of a slope there. So if they were to try to move the location of the structure, it's going to take considerable amount of excavation work, possibly a geotechnical report, those kind of things. So just moving the footprint of the building is not a simple task, and that's why they chose the location that they've chosen. So our staff recommendation is that the proposed development is bound by municipal reserve lands with no development on the south and east boundaries. They share a boundary with the property to the north, which is screened with mature shelter belt screening, so to screen the view from the neighboring dwelling. The additional height of the structure will not affect any of the neighboring properties nor interfere with their ability to enjoy their lands, and the same with the side yard variance. So therefore, administration recommends that the development permit DP 26023 be approved with the conditions as detailed in the attached development permit. And they're pretty much standard conditions in that. That concludes my presentation, and I can take any questions that you may have.
All right, we'll start with Board Member Nyberg.
So, thank you, Mr. Chairman. One of the things, I know the eave height was part of our fire department restrictions in the past. Now you're saying that the top is 28 feet?
Right, so the eave requirement is met. It's just the overall height to the peak of the building is.
So they've just, okay.
Right.
Okay, fair enough. So with that, Mr. Chair, I'd move this forward. I have no other questions. So.
I just have one additional question.
No, you don't get it.
I'm the chair. I get whatever I want. And every time we get into variances, I know our measurement is taken from the foundation and not from the eave. I don't see an issue with this, approving this side variance, but I have to ask to ensure that there is not any eave or overhang outside of their property line.
This encroachment actually is measured from the overhang. So it's the overhang, not the foundation, that is encroaching that 3 extra feet.
Okay.
So there's still 7 feet between the eave and the property line. So there's no encroachment onto the adjacent property.
Okay, fair enough.
And I think it encroaches onto public lands, right?
On that side, yes.
Okay.
I'd have more concern if it was another neighbor. So.
I try and ask that on everyone that gets close. I don't know if we have a qualified expert to answer that question, so any other questions about the application? All those in favor? And carried. Next up, we have 7.1 subdivision. Is this you, Craig?
It will be, Mr. Chair. Andrew, if we could just jump to page 41, please. Okay, can we scroll out so we can see more of the quotes? That's great, thanks. So this application is just off the west side of 56, south of the town of Stettler. And the proposal is to create a 7.3 acre parcel as outlined in pink in the portion of the quarter section that's owned by the applicant. The quarter section is already subdivided. On the west side, you first cross the railway and then you get to another parcel, and then you find the county road allowance on the west side of the quarter section. When you go east, it's other lands that are owned by the applicant, and then you get to Highway 56. So the driveway that serves this proposed existing house and proposed parcel stretches 800 meters across the applicant's own other quarter section to get to Alberta Transportation approved access point on Highway 56. So that's why right on first blush, it looks a little funny with no road allowances abutting anything. The application itself meets all the land use bylaw and the planning requirements. It does have an open discharge, and the new property lines do have to respect the 300-foot distance from the open discharge. The quarter section line itself is one that we can't adjust as part of the subdivision process. So that's why this application is possible to actually go a little bit less than that 8 to 9 acres that you otherwise would need. It is the second subdivision out of a quarter section, with the lands to the west of the railway being another parcel. So municipal reserve dedication is required. So that's 10% of 7.3 acres, 0.73 at a value of $2,428 an acre. In terms of the Rural Development Fund, I would consider this a new parcel for a residential. It's not a farmstead removal. There's none of the other typical outfield buildings and support buildings that would have gone with a farm operation. So in this case, I consider it a 5 acre parcel with a residence. So everything over the 5 acres should be subject to the Rural Development Contribution Fund at $1,000 an acre. So the contribution would be around $2,300. In terms of the access, the applicant has proposed, since they do own the neighboring quarter sections to the east, to provide an access easement that would serve both the proposed parcel and would have to also have one that serves the remnant parcel as well, to get back to Highway 56 to provide that physical and legal access. Staff does support the use of an easement in this particular case. This is also a scenario where we probably want to make sure that the county is party to the easement to make sure that things don't go awry. So there could be 2 easements, because the access for the remnant, if they choose to use the existing road, you can see on the, actually maybe we can zoom in now a little bit, Andrew, please. On either side of the stand of trees coming in from the east quarter section, you can see one road goes to the north that goes up to the remnant land or the remainder parcel, and the other is the main driveway that leads up to the house. So there may be a need for a separate easement for the remnant to cross that portion of the proposed parcel, unless they choose to reroute a driveway. But given the wetlands, it looks a little bit of like a challenge. But so with that, the recommendation is to approve the application subject to the conditions that are found on page 38 and 39 of the report. If we could just jump to that, Andrew. I'm pretty sure we've caught all of them, but yeah, so there's a reserve, and then scroll down to the next page. Oh, for the last one. In this particular case, ATCO Electric has indicated the need for a right-of-way, so that's kind of follow-up for us. They usually are already on top of getting the paperwork in and off to the applicant on their own. But happy to field any questions.
Board Member Nyberg?
Andrew, can you bring up a map that gives us a little better location of the road network there?
Fortunately,
I kind of know.
that's the best one you got.
So what is that on the back side there? What is?
That's the railway between the town and Big Valley.
Okay. Now, so the only access is 56 to them? Nothing.
Well, not only, it is the shortest. So it's just one of those unique layouts. We don't have our own grid. It's 2 miles north-south instead of a typical 1 mile. And then the highway broke up of their access, and there's another parcel that separates their access to get to the Range Road 20-1 to the west.
Oh,
So
so
Highway
that
56.
road. So there is a road going Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So on the backside, there is a road, but you would have to
We-
traverse the railway.
You would have to traverse 2 other property owners who may or may not consent.
I see. Okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. I was just seeing if there was another way to gain them access because that seems, yeah.
It seems easy when you own the parcel you're crossing.
Mm-hmm.
That's a pretty easy easement agreement. In the event of a sale, this may not be as,
Well, the access to the road is better on the backside, but I see the now that I thought they had owned that too as well, but I'm not.
They would need to remember to write it into the sales contract.
Well, that would be the easement will be on.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
I will move it forward, Mr. Chair, for sure.
any other questions, comments? All right, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And carried. And 7.3 subdivision file. Greg's, you're taking this one again?
Yes, Mr. Chair. So this applicant is located south of the hamlet of Erskine, so just in a couple miles to the east from 835. And it is a farmstead removal for 11 acres out of a previously unsubdivided quarter section. So in this particular case, reserve dedication is not something that we can require. The 11 acres does encompass the open discharge. And actually, we could go to the next map down where we have, I think, the zoomed in one. Great if we could zoom in a little bit on that, which is really what's defining the overall parcel boundaries for this, in addition to being tucked up into the corner. And the cultivated area to the very, very south, in that triangular shape where you can see defined by the hay bales, is the only part that I would consider not part of the farmstead for the purposes of calculating the rural development fund. It's fairly clearly not used for farm yard, and it's cultivated land. It's around a little bit over an acre, 1.1 if I recall correctly. Both the existing parcel proposed has at least one access that is suitable for its use to provide access to Township Road 8038-4. The remnant parcel has at least 2 options. It has one that's shown in this photo, and there's another access farther off to the west as well. And additionally, kind of a shared one in the very northwest corner of the proposed parcel. The applicant has indicated after we had done the site, or during the site inspection, that they wish to modify their subdivision somewhat. And that involves taking a notch out of the very northwest corner, where you can see there's 2 support buildings that are pretty close to the road that really are fundamental to the farm operation and not necessarily needed for the farmstead. So the applicant's request is that those 2 buildings plus the road across their south frontage be taken out of the proposed parcel and left with the remnant, which means that access would no longer be shared. It would go with the farm operation on the remnant parcel. Staff don't have any concerns with it, provided it doesn't intrude into the blue lines that you can see on the screen for the setback distance from the open discharge, and that they have to be at least 3 feet. The new property line has to be at least 3 feet in from the buildings to meet our setback requirements. And I believe that's, we can just double check page 93, Andrew, for the conditions, but I believe we've covered all of them. Oh, my mistake. I did forget 2. Road acquisition. 38-4 has recently been brushed, has really good sight lines, but it does not have our desired width of 30 meters. So the recommendation is that we use the agreements. We don't need the land right now, but that means putting road acquisition agreements on for the time when we do need the land. We'd be able to push back the fences and acquire the additional 5-meter strips.
Okay, Board Member Nyberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. They understand that taking that notch out is going to cost them a little bit more on surveying fees.
They do.
Okay. And that house is like right on the road as it is now. When we take our 5 meters, are we still going to have enough setback?
Okay. So,
Like it is literally like
we already don't have enough setback for our current requirements.
Okay.
Now, I did get this story a couple times on the house from the applicant, and I think it would be 1979 would be the standard we're trying to compare it against.
Mhm.
So, yeah, if we execute our ability to widen up the road, that separation space between the edge of the road allowance and the house is going to be smaller than it is today, and it will not meet our current standards.
So if I'm not mistaken, they own the property on the north side. I'm just wondering if there would be an opportunity for us to put a small curve in the road and go around them. Not that I'm proposing that. I'm just wondering if that's something in the future, if that would work better, because I mean, I'd rather give you dirt than make me move my house.
So,
Because we're going to be like, if we take 5 meters, I think we would be right on their doorstep, where we not.
yeah, we will be pretty darn close. It'll look very urban. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, just a couple points. Number one, I have not checked their ownership on the other side of the highway of the road because that's not the parcel that's the subject of the application.
Okay. No, I just
It's not to say theoretically you can't do that, but you'd be relying heavily on the consent of the applicant coming in as part of their proposal, similar to the access easement that we just had on the previous application, where they were proposing to allow an access easement across a quarter section that wasn't subject to the application. So doable. In the context of whether or not we need it and how long these could be remaining on property, the odds that the house gets redone and moved is another possible scenario in that intervening time.
Okay, Board Member Clark.
Just when you were talking about moving that road to the north, just adjacent to the north, there was another house. So,
Well,
yeah,
I was thinking of a small little curve. I was just trying to help the
Yeah, it
applicant
is.
if there was
Yeah.
something in the future, but there's nothing we can do.
I like where your head's at because nice curvy roads do not cause us issues in the future.
I drive this road regularly, and I know that I wouldn't. There would just be that little bulb in it, but that's why I know it very well. So with that, Mr. Chair, I would move this forward.
I do have one additional
No.
question. Does staff have any concern with that many approaches that close together? I know it's existed like that
No.
for likely decades, but
Operations didn't flag anything. We do have probably more concern with any offsets, but there aren't any offsets with an intersection or access on the other side. And when you visit this, it is incredibly flat on the section of the road. Like the sight line distances are more like a quarter section that way, quarter section this way. So, and again, it's very different if you haven't driven that road in the last 3 months. My understanding was the trees were very much taking over the entire ditch and enclosing the area pretty good. That we've recently taken care of that part.
okay, fair enough.
And that was just my comment. After the brushing, it has improved immensely.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table. Any other comments, questions? All right, all those in favor? And carried. Next up, 8.1, Department Report.
Yeah, I'll take that, Mr. Chairman. So from January to May of 2026, the planning department has processed 10 fewer development permits as compared to the same period in 2025. This decline reflects a moderate decrease in development activity year over year and may be attributed to changing economic conditions, seasonal trends, or fluctuations in construction and development demand within the municipality. The department continues to monitor the application volumes and maintain timely processing of permits and development inquiries. So as you can see, total number of permits from April 15th to May 14th is 9 for 2026. And if you scroll down, the total number of permits processed from that same time period, well, from April 1st to May 9th of 2025 was 17. So we did receive a few more, but I have received several development permit applications since writing this report last week. So, I think our numbers are going to eventually catch up and get us to where we have been previously. Well, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to. Thanks.
Question? All right, seeing none, I'll call it. All those in favor? And carried.
I think
Uh,
Lee and I are no longer on the list.
You didn't make the cut?
We made the last cut.
No new business, no old business. Do we have anything in camera?
I
We-
have that.
We added new business, Mr. Chair.
Oh, right, we have our addition. Okay, 9.1, the referral from Camrose County. Who's taking this one? Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So subdivision referral that came in from Camrose County. Sorry, the timelines are a little tight to meet our time for our meeting agendas and the June 4th deadline to get comments in. So hence the reason why it's a walk on. The application is a second parcel out of a previously subdivided quarter section right along our north boundary, north of Denalda, on the north side of Highway 53, and creating about a 13.2 acre parcel located in the lower right, highlighted in pink that you can see on the sketch. Oh, you did find. How did you? Yeah. Okay, right, because it was in the folder. Right. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So when we again, I think for some of you this may be I don't think this group has had many other intermunicipal referrals, but
I
just
think we're on
generally.
west boundary with Lacombe.
Yeah, okay, so we have seen one. So the same general principle, it's not what we would do for the subdivision is do we see any impact on our own planning? And given that Highway 53 separates this piece of land from ours, it's not a shared road, it's under the provincial jurisdiction. And our land uses are all the same and comparable up in that area. So staff don't see any conflict with our own land use planning efforts. Therefore, we recommend that a letter go back to Camrose County indicating that the County of Stettler has no comments or concerns on the application.
I just have to make a comment.
Are you gonna suggest that their boundaries do not seem uniform?
Oh, they
or-
don't seem they seem to be fairly etchy sketchy too.
Yeah, I knew it.
Yeah. It must be
What-
a new wave.
Is that an internal comment, or would you like that comment to go out to our municipal neighbors?
That I have to talk to their Reeve. I'll mention that too.
Okay,
Why would you take the water? Like, why would you spend the survey fee on that? That's insane.
So I think that's the one that's already done. The proposed one's the pink. The blue one was done years ago.
So the first, yeah, but why would you do it then? Like, I mean, that's like to me, no matter how you do that, that's not making any sense to me. Unless you got a walking path around it.
Crown might have claimed it and dug it that way.
Yeah, but wouldn't you just run your blue straight south?
No, they would come up as a separate parcel if it was crown claim.
Is that a
there
gravel
is
place or
a-
something there?
Mr. Chair, I would give you a motion to receive for
Oh, that's
information with
right.
no
Oh,
comment.
a motion
But
to
we need-
instruct staff to
No objections.
contact Camrose County and indicate that we have no objections.
Did they etch a sketch?
I believe we agreed that we would handle that internally from Reeve to Reeve.
I'll give you said so motion.
All right, all those in favor? Now we're moving on after my forgotten addition. No new business, no old business. Any in camera?
I do not, Mr. Chair, but if you have a few minutes, if you'd like to say hello to our new planners, we can do that as well.
Hi.
After adjourn, good adjourn in.
Yeah.
You can do that too. You want?
All right, next meeting is
June 17th, 2026.
okay. That leaves us with only one motion left to make.
No, you can do it. I'll let you.
Go ahead.
I'll motion for adjournment.
All those in favor?
I won't
And-
be here on the 17th.